Hi everyone, I am Francesco Suman, science journalist, and today I am here with Alessandra Biffi, who was awarded an ERC Advanced Grant this year, and Valentina Poletti, who works with Professor Biffi with an MSCA Fellowship. Professor Biffi is Professor of Pediatrics at the University of Padua. She is head of the Division of Pediatric Hematology, Oncology, and Stem Cell Transplant at the Department of Women and Child's Health of the University of Padua. During her career, she has received many awards and grants, among which the ERC Advanced Grant. But before coming to Padua, Professor Biffi, you've been in Boston, in the US, and in Italy, in Milan. So when and why you decided to move to Padua?
Yes, good morning, Francesco, and thank you for your question. I arrived in Padua almost 4 years ago, and at that time, as you said, I was in Boston. I was working at Boston Children's Hospital. I was leading the efforts in the area of cell and gene therapy there. And I was recruited by Professor Giuseppe Basso, who at that time was the head of the division I'm working on right now, to basically replace him. He was retiring and he was looking for someone to succeed him, someone who could bring to his division something new in the area of cell and gene therapy, which is seen as a new avenue for treating patients with hematologic malignancies and other kind of tumors, as we do. And so he contacted me. He convinced me that Padua could have been the right place to go after Boston to develop my research and my clinical interests. And so we decided together to work out my move. And that's how I arrived. At that time, I was fortunate enough to have ongoing another ERC grant, a consolidator ERC, and that was also the way by which I could get into the professorship in a relatively straightforward way at the time I decided to come here.
And you, Valentina, you started out at the University of Modena Reggio Emilia. Then you moved quite a lot. I see you've been in Milan, in Padua, in Paris, in Boston as well, and then again in Padua with this MSCA Fellowship under the supervision of Professor Biffi, and you are also a junior PI at the Pediatric Research Institute in Padua. So I guess you met Professor Biffi before settling in Padua, and what convinced you to work with her in Padua?
Thank you for your invitation, first of all. And yes, I met Professor Biffi actually 3 years before, I think, coming back to Padua. And I started working with her in her group in Boston at the FCI. And I started working with something new, relatively new for me in the field of gene therapy. That is a new application in a field that I never touched before, that is neurometabolic diseases. And I really like it, and I was very, very fascinating for this application and this field. So actually, after years working together there, I decided to move here in Padua, to join a group here in Padua, and continue and hopefully finish up to the clinic with the work that we started there, and also develop a brand new project of gene therapy here in Padua that actually I think is the place to be now for this.
Indeed, a very promising research field, gene therapy. And Professor Biffi, of course, you were awarded with the most prestigious grant one researcher can get. So I have to ask you, how do you get awarded an ERC Advanced Grant? I mean, is there a recipe? Of course there isn't, but how did you do?
I think there's not a recipe, but there could be circumstances and opportunities. I think in my case, the opportunity was a very peculiar moment in the field I've applied to, which is the field of gene therapy, where some side effects related to the way we do gene transfer and gene correction into the patient's HSCs arose and have been discussed. And so in the field, once again, something similar happened almost 15 years ago. Now, once again, we are trying to find alternative ways for gene transfer, and in particular, many are focusing on gene editing. And in this specific moment, we had a very unusual and unexpected finding. By serendipity, we discovered a location in the genome where gene editing could be very instrumental for us to empower our gene therapy strategy. So right time, unexpected, but good idea, a fascinating project. At least I was enthusiastic for the idea and the project we have been developing in our minds, and then we have been writing, and so we tried, and I probably also been lucky, but for sure having the right idea at the right time with a lot of enthusiasm could be part of the recipe for winning.
And Valentina, what about your Marie Curie research project? How was the submission, and how you succeeded in that? And what do you expect for your career? I mean, what does this experience in Padua with Professor Biffi can give you for your career?
Well, the recipe is very similar. Essentially, a strong project. We have. I think it was a good idea. It was supported, but by data that inspired by data that and results, very promising results of a similar study. So it was a good idea in a moment that was probably the right timing, and again a little of lucky by chance. And what about my future plans? Obviously, I would like to enter in tenure track here in the University of Padua, and concluding my project about the fellowship project, and start a new and novel project in the same, let's say, in the same track.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with your career and the best results, and I'm sure you deserve them all. And many thanks for your time, to you and to Professor Biffi, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.